going on. The first things I'm going to cover is the use of dollar signs in Excel. So as an example, we did this in class. I have the ideal gas law, or the information for that, volume of 10 liters, number of moles 2, and I have an ideal gas constant. And then here I have a bunch of measurements. This is from dataset 2, where I have all of my lovely temperatures in degrees Celsius. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert Celsius into Kelvin. So I'm just going to add 273 and 0.15. And because I want to do it for all of the lovely data points here, I can just double click here. And it is now done for all of the lovely data. All of them have been converted into Kelvin. Actually, one of them looks a bit weird, but we'll live with that. Now, if I then want to calculate my pressure, the equation I want to use, let's just remind ourselves, P times V equals nRT. That's the equation I want to use. So, actually, that should be a capital N. Let's get it right. So that means if I want to calculate my pressure would be nRT over V. And that's the equation I want to put in here. Now, for some reason, I can't see my chat right now. I'll try and fix that as we go along. And switch. Let's just see if it works. And switch. Get me back on the camera for now. So, and now hopefully I can see the chat if anyone wants to ask questions. Great. Back to where we were. There we go. P equal nRT over V. So that's what I'm going to be putting in this part. Start with an equal sign. I want to do some fancy math. And then I'm going to select the cells where I have my constants. So for instance, the number of moles hiding in B3. I'm going to multiply it by R, which is in B4. Multiply it by temperature, which I have right here next to it in Kelvin. And finally, I want to divide by my volume, which was in B2. Now, this gives me the correct answer for this particular cell. But if I were to drag it down, suddenly the pressure that's being calculated is 0. So what has gone wrong here? Well, actually, can I just... Maybe that helps a bit. So what has gone wrong here? Well, if we go in and look at what cells it's referencing, it's certainly referencing something wrong. It's certainly referencing the cells that have moved down one. So that's what I don't want to do. I want it whenever I go down one step to go to the next temperature in the set, but I don't want it to move these cells as well. So if we go back to our original one and say we can actually lock them in place. So we can say B3, that's number of moles. If I press F4, I can lock it into place. I actually only need to lock the line number, so 3, into place. What about my R? It's the same. Temperature I do want to change. And finally, volume I don't want to change. So I just put in a dollar sign in front of each of the numbers and say numbers may never change. If I now fill it down, suddenly I get the correct pressures. I can actually do it all the way. So all I'm doing is I'm locking in and saying I don't want to change anything for the cells that I have put a dollar sign. So the 3 is going to be a 3 if I take one of the others here. We can see it still says B3, B4, B2, but D has changed to D11. So that's what I'm filling down. I want dollar signs in front of numbers if I don't want those to change. Sometimes I want to do it in the other direction. So here as an example, I have an average that I want to achieve. And then I have here, you can see a bunch of days where I have many measurements of different values. And I basically want to calculate, I'll go to the bottom here. I want to calculate the average that I have for a particular day. Average. Select all of the lovely numbers. And that's that. This gives me the average. Now, if I wanted to If I wanted to, I could just drag it over here. It'll calculate the averages of all the days. So you can see it moves along. Day 2, I can select the next one, day 3, and so on. If I wanted to take the ratio of the average compared to the goal of my average, so if I do that, we can see that for day 1, the average of day 1 is 99% of the desired, 99.7% of the desired average. But if I were to drag this along, oh, now suddenly Excel says it's divided by 0. Why has it done that? Well, it takes the data from day 2, quite fine, but the cell up here also moves 1 to the right. So instead of B1, it's now C1. If I want to change that, take my original, and I can just say, in this case, I don't want the B to ever change, and I can now drag it to the right. Everything works fine. If I want to do it in both directions or log in both of them, I can just have a $sign. Oh, where was it? There, $sign in front of both. No matter which way I now move or copy my cell, the B1 will always refer to B1.